All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into this episode of the Chiefs Zone Podcast. Farzin Vasukin here with you on a Tuesday night, and we have breaking news in the NFL that we will get into in just a moment here. This is holy shit level news that just came out here regarding Maxx Crosby and the trade that's no longer going to happen between the Ravens and the Raiders. I'll explain why in just a moment. Oh boy, this is all sorts of insane right now. But we will get into that very shortly. I'm just reading the updates as they come in. There is an update and an explanation as to why this trade did not go through, and I'll get into that shortly. We'll also talk about some Chiefs news as the Chiefs themselves have not been doing anything today after a very busy Monday. However, a couple of former Chiefs, if you want to call them that now, Chenal and Pacheco, they have moved on. Pacheco is signing with the Lions, and Chenal is going to Washington to be a part of the Commanders. So we'll get into that later on in the podcast. Travis Kelce spoke today to Pat McAfee, a very short interview, but talked about what it meant going back to Kansas City, and shared a couple of interesting things that I think you guys might find intriguing from that interview as well. Before we go any further, this podcast is brought to you by SeatGeek. That's where I go to for all my sports ticketing needs. You guys want to attend any of the NFL action that's coming up later this year that we're talking about right now, you guys can always go to SeatGeek, get your tickets there. We've got the Big 12 tournament happening this week in Kansas City. Then the NCAA tournament right after that. NBA, NHL playoffs starting up real soon. Major League Baseball going to be underway later on this month. You guys want to catch any of the action, get your tickets at SeatGeek, and new customers, put in my promo code Farzin. You will save $20 off your first purchase from SeatGeek. All right. We got to get into this Maxx Crosby deal. So here is the breaking news within the last 20 minutes. Maxx Crosby, who the Raiders traded to Baltimore for 2 first-round draft picks, one for 2026, the other for 2027. That trade no longer is a thing. The Ravens, the first report we got was that the Ravens backed out of the trade. Now we are learning that Maxx Crosby failed his physical. Oh boy. I mean, there are only a couple of things I can relate this to before learning about the physical part, failing the physical part, that is. Because I thought of, when Bill Belichick backed out of the Jets job, Josh McDaniels backed out of the Colts job, but that's not necessarily what this is. Because, listen, while we are discussing all of these signings and trades, none of these are official until tomorrow afternoon. I mean, Trent McDuffie technically is still a member of the Kansas City Chiefs, as odd as that sounds. I mean, and listen, Adam Schefter, who is one of the titans of NFL insiders, he was even saying the other day, he's like, dude, really? We have to pretend like these are not official until Wednesday? Like, he even said free agency starts on Monday. But these trades are not officially official until Wednesday. And that includes this Maxx Crosby trade. But that's, even if this was after the new league year got underway, this still would have occurred because Crosby failed his physical. This is awkward. This is really awkward, because then that puts the Raiders in this spot. It's like, what do? Because the Raiders have been spending a lot of money. The reason why the Raiders have been spending all this money is because they traded away Maxx Crosby. Now, I don't think the Raiders are necessarily in deep trouble with the salary cap because they had a lot of money to start spending right away, at least to my understanding. Do we know why he failed his physical? That I have no idea. But this is one of the more mind-blowing news stories in quite some time. Like, we've had shocking trades and releases, these kinds of things. But for someone, I mean, for this trade to just get nixed. So the Ravens issued not the Ravens, the Raiders issued a statement. It says the Baltimore Ravens have backed out of our trade agreement for Maxx Crosby. We will have no further comment at this time. We're now learning that it's a failed physical. See, Nick Wright just said the big loser in this trade being called off is Las Vegas. Are they really, though? Because here's the way I view it. The Raiders have been making moves. And maybe Crosby, this might not be the worst thing in the world for him. Listen, I'm at a loss for words right now. I'm just paying attention to all the tweets that are coming in from insiders on this. It's just, yeah. So for those of you just tuning in now, Maxx Crosby is not a Baltimore Raven because he failed his physical, which is, listen, for those asking about the details of the physical, we don't know that. I assume we'll find out soon, but it is kind of odd because the Raiders shut down Maxx Crosby late in the regular season. And listen, the Chiefs did this as well with some of their players because they don't want anyone to get injured. You're going to potentially trade guys, or you don't want them to get injured late in the season, so you save them for the following season. As much as players hate that is what teams do. But they were trying to make it sound like Crosby really was hurt, and then he posts a video of himself on Instagram playing basketball. Man, how do the Raiders not know he would not pass a physical? Because, I mean, unless I'm mistaken, I don't think teams, like, whenever the Chiefs and all of their players return for OTAs, the veterans, to be clear, I mean, they're not making Kelsey and Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Creed Hummer. I mean, they're not making Chris Jones, all of their returning players do physicals, are they? That's something you only do if you're acquiring someone. I mean, I don't know. That's what I assume. We've never had even a thought like this. See, AJ's asking, what does this do with all spending all that money in free agency? That's a great question. I don't know. I mean, what was the Raiders' salary cap before the Crosby trade? They still had a lot of money to spend, right? This is unprecedented, man. Like, I remember who was it? Wasn't it Denver? Didn't Denver trade Jake Plummer? And then he retired. So whoever gave up a draft pick for Plummer, they got that pick back. Maybe I'm mistaken the player and the teams involved. It's something along those lines. Does anyone remember what I'm talking about? It was like in the mid 2000s. I mean, I've seen things like that before. I make it sound like it's common. It's not. But that has happened in the past. By the way, speaking of edge rushers, Trey Hendrickson close to a decision, according to The Athletic. I wonder if Baltimore is on the table. Because, listen, Lamar Jackson tweeted how excited he was about. I mean, he didn't necessarily say word for word because you can't really say much at this moment, even though players kind of do share all the information that they're getting signed in and whatnot. But I mean, Trent McDuffie, he's technically not a Ram yet, but he put out a big thank you statement to Kansas City. I mean, teams do this. Maxx Crosby did like an 8-minute video to thank the Raiders organization, Raiders fans. Okay, Brad is saying in March of 07, Broncos traded Jake Plummer to Tampa. That's right, for a conditional 08 draft pick, but the trade effectively collapsed when the 32-year Plummer chose to retire because he lost his job to Jay Cutler. I have not heard that name in a long time. Jay Cutler. Okay. So thank you for looking that up, Brad. Yeah, I knew it was involving Jake Plummer and the Broncos. So they traded him, and the Buccaneers got their draft pick back. So something like this has happened before. Not often. It's extremely rare. But this, like an all-pro type of player like Crosby, this is shocking. Again, I'm at a loss for words. Like, if it was a drug test, oh boy. If this was a drug test, oh, that gets interesting. I mean, look, Crosby's kind of at a point where, has Crosby commented yet? And I would imagine he would have to soon. I don't believe he has. Let me go to his social media. This is wild. Yeah, he has the video from 3 days ago, and then yesterday he wrote, "Let's get it." I'm assuming that's in relation to, yeah, he's responding to John Simpson of the Ravens, Baltimore Ravens offensive lineman. You ain't gonna be getting in with them, at least not right now. Trey could get to play Cincy twice a year. Oh, I didn't even think of that. That would definitely make things interesting. Yeah, for those asking what part of the physical, we have no idea specifically what it is he failed. Yes, he is staying on the Raiders, Jeremy. Oh boy, that is really shocking. Anyway, if there's any more news on that, we'll get back into it. For now, I think we're gonna go ahead and move on. We got the information we need for now. Still, boy, at a loss for words. But nonetheless, we do have some Chiefs news to get into. So coming into today, Tuesday, I think some of the notable Chiefs that we were looking forward to finding out what was going to happen with them: Leo Chenal, Kareem Hunt, Matt Ariza. One of those guys has found a new home, and that is Leo Chenal. He is going to the Washington Commanders, and it's a pretty solid deal for him. According to Jordan Schultz of not Bleacher Report anymore, Fox Sports, it's a 3-year deal worth almost $25 million. Underrated on defense, and somebody that has really been great on special teams. I would argue he's one of the best special teams players of all time in Chiefs history. Had that block PAT in Super Bowl 58 that helped force overtime, because if he doesn't get that block, Kansas City is forced to try to score a touchdown late in regulation of that game. And then we learned also Isaiah Pacheco is going to the Detroit Lions. He is going to be working alongside Jahmyr Gibbs up north in Detroit. Now, I will say this, because when you look at the Kansas City Chiefs right now, who are some of the players that they have lost in free agency? Not via trade. Obviously, McDuffie is the player who the Chiefs traded away. But as far as other players, Brian Cook just signed a deal with the Cincinnati Bengals yesterday. And I'm trying to pull up the numbers on that right there, because that does matter to an extent. I'm trying to find out where is that Brian Cook. There it is. It is a 3-year deal worth $42.5 million. That's a pretty big signing there. And then you have Jalen Watson. He went to the Rams, reuniting quickly with Trent McDuffie. That is a 3-year deal worth $51 million. So with Watson, Cook, and Chenal signing the deals that they've signed, Kansas City might get 3 compensatory picks next year. I know right now nobody cares about that kind of thing at the moment. People are more focused on this year, and understandably so. But when you look at Kansas City's defense right now, look, I'm going to state the obvious. This is going to be a defensive loaded draft for the Chiefs. It just will. So you're going to draft a lot of defensive guys. And if you're not happy with certain positions, or if there are certain holes that you feel need to be addressed, well, you're going to have an opportunity to do it again 13 months from now, because you're going to have a lot of compensatory picks. And you also have a 3rd round pick from the Rams for next year in the 3rd round from the McDuffie trade. And listen, I like Leo Chenal. I'll never forget his introduction when he came to Arrowhead the weekend of the draft for that little party they had with season ticket holders. And just the way he fired up that crowd. I've always felt like Leo Chenal has the mentality of an edge rusher, like an outside linebacker or a defensive end. And I know the Chiefs used him in some of those blitz packages and even had him lined up on the edge at times. I think he's capable of being a good defensive end if he were to ever play that position. But we'll see how the Commanders use him in DC. But I think when you look at the losses in free agency, yeah, they're unfortunate. But no, number one, we knew Brett Veach was not going to pay defensive backs. We just knew that right off the bat. Number two, you're going to be getting a lot of compensatory picks for 2026 and 2027. I was surprised the Chiefs did not have 2 comp picks. They only got 1 from Justin Reed. I thought they were going to get another one from the Turk Wharton signing to Carolina. Yeah, what do I bring to the team? Violence. Yes, that is what he said. Yeah, I remember that. And yeah, Tony, you're right. The kick against Denver. I mean, who could? Dude, Denver fans were down bad on that one. And listen, I remember watching that thinking, man, you're going to lose your first game to Denver of all teams. But the way they pulled through, that was great. That was a lot of fun. And listen, that's what I'm going to miss the most about Chenal is, like, we don't talk about special teams often unless something bad's happening, like Butker missing the field goals that he missed last year. The return game and all the holding calls that we just have had to witness over the years. Nobody ever talks about the good things that happen, at least not often. And Chenal, what he's done on special teams over the years should never go unappreciated or even unnoticed. I do feel like Kansas City is comfortable with their linebacker room because they do have Jeffrey Bossa, who only played 39 snaps last year. He was a Rose Bowl MVP. I can't remember what year it was for Oregon. So he's had some success on the defensive side of the football in college. And now he's going to have an opportunity to do a lot of that for the Chiefs. Played a lot of special teams last year for the Chiefs. Bossa, that is his rookie year. The Chiefs also have Cooper McDonald. I know Dave Tobe was talking about how they grade their players. And he said that McDonald was the highest graded special teams player for the Chiefs. So I do feel like the Chiefs are going to be okay at the linebacker position with Bossa stepping up and possibly getting much more playing time, as well as McDonald, who probably will continue to play more on special teams and will also get some snaps on defense as well because, I think everyone moves up a bit. I don't know if the Chiefs... Here's a question I have for you guys. Will the Chiefs go after a linebacker in this draft? I don't think they will. Unless it's in the 7th or the 6th round. I don't know. I don't think Kansas City has a 6th round pick. Well, I take that back. They do from the Rams trade. But I would not expect a linebacker until day 3. Because I think a lot of the focus will be edge rusher and the secondary. And as far as the offensive side, I would imagine that they might go after at least one offensive lineman and probably one wide receiver unless they bring back Hollywood Brown and or Juju Smith-Schuster. That's going to be that'll be interesting to see how they want to manage that. And maybe they wait until after the draft to decide what they want to do with Juju or Hollywood, because that's what some teams do as well. Certain players will wait until after the draft. I see some speculation that the Chiefs might wait until after the draft to figure out what they want to do with Kareem Hunt. I don't think they'll wait that long, but I'm seeing that speculation out there. But you're going to be getting a lot of comp picks. You're going to be getting a lot of comp picks for 2027, and that's a good thing for Kansas City. I mentioned Pacheco. He is moving on to the Lions. I think that's a good spot for him. I mean, he's going to be playing under Dan Campbell, who is just this hard-nosed, no-nonsense guy. And when you think of the way Isaiah Pacheco plays, specifically in 2022 and 2023, dude, this guy just was never afraid of contact, which concerned us at the time, wondering, dude, is this guy going to get a concussion? Unfortunately, he dealt with that lower body injury, and that put him in a place where he missed a lot of time in 2024 and has not been the same since then. Listen, I think this is a good signing for Detroit if Pacheco can go back to his 2022 form. Because I remember watching Pacheco that year and thinking, maybe this is Kansas City's long-term solution at the running back position. Because remember, they tried it with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, their first-round draft pick. That did not work out. They had Kareem Hunt. They kicked him off the team before. Brought him back now, but he's obviously not the same running back he once was. So Kansas City is still trying to look for that running back position, and they're hoping that they have it now in Kenneth Walker. Pacheco, I thought, could have been that guy, but these last 2 years have kind of put the Chiefs in a position to where they just didn't feel like he was someone that they could move forward with. And as a result, they get Kenneth Walker. Pacheco moves on to Detroit. Oh, yeah, in terms of former Chiefs, Sky Moore has signed with the Green Bay Packers. Listen, he's not a good wide receiver, but he actually did some really good things on special teams last year. I did see that he had a 99-yard kick return and did not score a touchdown. It's actually a little comical, if we're being honest. Kaylee is asking, who do the Chiefs have left on defense? Yeah, a lot of people are asking this. So let's go over the defense right now, because I think it's very fair to say that the Chiefs are going to go defensive heavy in this upcoming draft. Your defensive line, let's start with the edge rushers. You have George Karlaftis. You have Ashton Gelati, Felix Anudike-Uzomah. These are all recent draft picks over the last 4 years for Kansas City. By the way, one last thing. Before I get into that, let me quickly go over the 2022 draft class, because this is something that I just realized. So who did the Chiefs draft in 2022? Trent McDuffie just got a big deal, biggest contract ever for a cornerback. George Karlaftis got a big deal with Kansas City. Sky Moore, who's now a journeyman. Brian Cook just got a big deal with the Bengals. Leo Chenal just got a solid deal with the Commanders. Josh Williams with the Titans. Darian Kennard has turned into a journeyman. Jalen Watson just got a big deal with the Rams. Pacheco with the Lions. Najee Johnson's available. I don't think a lot of people are rushing to get Najee Johnson, but man, what happened to that narrative that Brett Veach can't draft? I mean, sure, he didn't get anyone of a Mahomes, Kelsey, Jones caliber like John Dorsey did, but dude, a lot of the guys that Veach drafted here went on to get big contracts. Karlaftis in Kansas City, McDuffie and Watson with the Rams, Cook with the Bengals. Chenal got a solid deal in Washington. Like, man, I was told Brett Veach can't draft, and these are all of his draft picks. Can we get Maxx Crosby? No, I wish. Yeah, I mean, the Raiders would not trade him within the division unless you give up a lot of draft capital. And that's obviously unrealistic. Is Tyree coming back? I don't know, maybe mid-season, but he's not going to be joining a team anytime soon. He's been available for, a little over a month or under a month, I want to say. He's been available for a few weeks now. There's a reason why he's still available. And listen, he doesn't have to wait for the new league year. He can sign right away. But teams are pretty shy about what he's kind of going through right now with his knee injury. I mean, it was a devastating knee injury, and one that is going to take some time, because he did say on one of his live streams on Twitch, I think it was, that he's going to need to get another surgery. So even Andy Reid was like, I don't even know if he can do anything right now. So yeah, that's certainly a concern. Who do I think we're signing next? I don't know. Here's the other thing, because a lot of these deals are unofficial at the moment. We don't know exactly what the salary cap situation is. I know the Chiefs were one of the heavier spenders yesterday. And I would imagine a lot of these contracts that they signed with Tonga, Kenneth Walker, Tyquan Thornton, I would imagine these are more backloaded contracts, because I'd be surprised if they were front loaded, because the Chiefs don't have a whole lot to spend. I think it was $24 million going into Monday. So I can't really say for sure. I would imagine that I know they're tied into the offensive tackle sweepstakes right now. I've been telling you guys, the Chiefs are eyeing a right tackle. They've got to. They're not as comfortable with Jalen Moore as some of you guys think. I was excited for Jalen Moore last offseason, but we thought Jalen Moore was going to be the left tackle. We didn't expect Josh Simmons to fall the way he did. And, that's a little unfortunate for Jalen Moore, because he came in thinking he would play a lot more, which, hey, he actually got a lot of playing time, all things considered. But there's a wide open spot at right tackle right now. Pole's never played right tackle before in the NFL, even in the preseason. In college, I believe he was a left tackle. Jalen Moore has been a left tackle, but played some right as well with Kansas City last year and a little bit with San Francisco. So maybe it's one of those guys. Maybe they look elsewhere. I think one surprise we might get in the draft, Francis Maui-Noah might fall to the Chiefs at 9. Look, I've said this a couple of times now, and I'll say it again. There's nothing exciting about drafting a right tackle at 9. But I'll say this, because a lot of times when you see offensive tackles that go in the first round, a majority of them are left tackles. When you look at the mock drafts for this year, there are a couple of really good right tackles that are expected to go in the first round. One of them being Francis Maui-Noah, the offensive tackle from Miami, right tackle from Miami. If you're wondering some of the other offensive tackles that the Chiefs might be considering, Spencer Fano was a pretty good right tackle for Utah. Someone that has some right tackle experience is Monroe Freeling. If you want to look a little later on in the draft, Blake Miller from Clemson also played a lot of right tackle, at least 800 snaps each of the last 3 years. So that's another option as well. Look, I'll say this. I would like for the Chiefs to focus on defense with both of their first round picks, assuming they don't trade out or do anything to get out of the first round. But man, if they chose to use one of their 2 first round picks on a right tackle, whether it's Francis Maui-Noah at 9, I've seen Fano get projected to go in the top 10 in some mock drafts. I've also seen him fall in the 20s. Blake Miller would be a good option as well with the 29th pick if he's there. There are a couple of really good options at right tackle in this draft. And I think Kansas City is prioritizing right tackle more than maybe we expected. So just be mindful of that. Is Kansas City going to try to find a veteran right tackle? Probably. And remember something too. Patrick Williams is coming off that ACL tear late in the season. I know the word on the street from a lot of insiders, and you're hearing this more and more. I heard it again from Albert Breer, is that Mahomes is expected to be ready for week 1. And listen, I'm not gonna question it. I'm gonna be cautiously optimistic about that. But listen, no one's gonna question Patrick Mahomes' work ethic. But I will say this: if you're the Chiefs, you got to make sure Patrick Mahomes is protected at all costs. And listen, even if you have the 5 best offensive linemen in the league, you're still going to allow pressures. You're still going to allow sacks. I mean, those things are going to happen. No quarterback goes an entire season without getting touched by a defender. None at all. But at the end of the day, give Patrick Mahomes the best offensive line you can give him. Because I'm a firm believer that if you have an elite quarterback, if you give him the best offensive line possible, everything else will fall into place. You're not going to have a lot of 3 and outs, and that'll also help your defense. That's something the Chiefs dealt with a lot of last year on offense. So we'll see how that goes. Travis Kelce spoke to Pat McAfee today. It was actually a really good interview, fairly short as well. So Kelce addressed the re-signing and just kind of the thought process. One of the things that they started off talking about was the decision and what Kelce kind of went through mentally, emotionally to make this decision. Kelce straight up said it was a very short and brief thought process. And he said that the Chiefs knew where he was the entire time with his decision. So it doesn't sound like Kelce was seriously contemplating retiring at all. He probably just gave those answers because he just needed time away to think, especially after a very disappointing season. That is completely understandable because this is the first time in the Andy Reid era the Chiefs have been below 500. And who's been in the Andy Reid era in KC the entire time? Travis Kelce. The only time Travis Kelce's missed the playoffs prior to this past season was in 2014, the first year where Kelce actually played. He was drafted in 2013, but missed all of it due to a knee injury. 2014 was his first year as a starter. Since then, Kelce has never missed the playoffs up until this past season. So it certainly was different for him this year, but made it very clear that he was locked in on coming back. As a matter of fact, Pat McAfee mentioned, the slip up with Bieniemy saying that he can't wait to see Bieniemy in the building. Kelce admitted, and we talked about this, and so did everybody else. Kelce admitted that it was a slip up. He didn't even realize it. I think that happens a lot sometimes. Sometimes, when people do podcasts or talk radio for a living, they obviously have a lot to say, and it's hard to keep track of every single thing you say. And sometimes you just say things that might come off controversial and you didn't mean for it to come off that way, and it blows up into something. That's kind of what happened with Kelce. He didn't really think much of the comment of, "Oh, I can't wait to see Bieniemy in the building." Well, retired players don't say that. No retired player says that. So I think that was the first strong indication we got that Kelce is coming back. And he admitted, hey, yeah, it was a slip up. Didn't really think much of it. But I think the point is Kelce made it very clear that, he was set on coming back. He was also asked about his relationship with Taylor Swift a little bit, something kind of cool here. I know it's been talked about how, and Kelsey's talked about this a lot, praising her for her work ethic. Said that, her work ethic is something that motivates him and that he's applied to football. And even kind of played a little bit of a role in wanting to come back for another season. He was also asked about coming back and trying to right the ship from a very disappointing season. So I'll read you the entire quote here. It's actually a short quote, but it says a lot. He says, the biggest thing in coming back is that we've got to be hungrier than we've been before. Talking to Pat, talking to Coach Reid and the guys, there's a lot of dog mentality right now to get this thing fixed. That mentality itself is already motivating me to get to where I need to be during the season. And look, I know there was a lot that was made of Kelce in his workouts last year, losing weight and trying to be in better shape at 36 years old, entering the season at 36, turning 37 in October. And look, I think you saw a much different Kelce this past season. Kelce looked better this past season than he did the year before. And by the way, I apologize. He was 35 turning 36. He is 36 turning 37 this season. So apologies on that. But bottom line is, listen, he's up there in age, but he played better this past year. He was on pace for 1,000 receiving yards up until the Mahomes injury. Now, does Kelsey have some things to work on? Yeah, and he alluded to that in the interview with McAfee. The quote I just read you. I think the one big thing about Kelsey, we know, anyone that's followed Kelsey his entire career, this guy wears his emotions on his sleeve. If he's frustrated, you see it. Remember that time where he got into it with the referee? They threw a flag at him and he threw his towel towards the ref, then throw it at him. That was kind of a funny moment. Which, by the way, I don't often defend players for that kind of thing. At the time, I even said I had no issue with Kelsey. He was getting horse collar grabbed. Jacksonville was getting away with all kinds of things, but fortunately for Kansas City, they still pulled away and won that football game. I'm trying, obviously, a couple of sideline deals with Bieniemy, with Reed. This past year in the Eagles game, he tossed his helmet saying, "I'm sick of this shit." And then in that same Eagles game, had the ball go off his hands right at the goal line. I know he had another one against Washington. He also had one against Houston. That one, listen, I've seen Kelsey make that play many times, but that's also a very difficult pass to pull in here. I'm not going to say he's completely free of criticism there, but I wouldn't also put that all on him. That was a throw by Mahomes that could have certainly been better. But listen, at the end of the day, Kelsey's got some things to work on. And I would say if he can just hold on to the football, that would probably make Kelsey an even better football player. Look, he was top 6 in yards after the catch, receiving yards, and receptions among tight ends. So, sure, call him old, call him washed up, but number one, Rappaport mentioned that there were a lot of teams out there that were interested in Travis Kelsey if he were to be available, and that he could have made more money from another team if he chose to go that route. Now, with Kelsey, and listen, I know a lot of people make a big deal that he's about to marry a multi-billionaire. Kelsey makes a lot of money on his own with his podcast, with acting gigs, his partnership with what's the beer company? Garage Beer. So, he's making plenty of money from endorsements and opportunities. If you just listen to New Heights, if you've been listening to New Heights since the very beginning, dude, the number of sponsorships they've added over the years has grown drastically. So, and of course, he's got 1587 Prime. You definitely will be spending a prime amount when you're eating there. So, he is certainly in a good place financially. And Rappaport mentioned he didn't stay in Kansas City because of the money. He's always been underpaid for the longest time up until the last 2 seasons. So that is the update on the Kelsey front there. Late last night, if you didn't get a chance, listen to last night's podcast. We actually did a second podcast last night. I was in the middle of my workout. I was literally on the treadmill when this news broke. And the Chiefs, they re-signed Tyquan Thornton to a 2-year deal worth $11 million, can go up to $14 million. That's significant. I think he's earned that. And with what you saw on offense in the first 3 games, disappointed a lot of people that he didn't play. He was not given more playing time the rest of the year, but it sounds like they're going to use him. Tyquan Thornton made it very clear in an interview with Sports Radio 810 that he wants to be utilized. He doesn't want to not play on the field. So I don't think the Chiefs would make this move just for him to have the same number of snaps, provided that no one gets injured, which is obviously a big if. But you get the idea. And then the other move, Alohi Gilman coming to Kansas City, former Charger, also was traded to Baltimore last year and also played at Notre Dame. Why do I mention that? Drew Tranquill, he is very familiar with Alohi Gilman. He played with Gilman at Notre Dame for a couple of years and then also reunited with him in LA for a couple more years. And now they're going to be playing together for at least 1 season in Kansas City. As a matter of fact, this is from Fernando Ramirez, who covers the LA Chargers. And in 2020, he put a tweet from Drew Tranquill quoting him because he was asked, who would you take to the NFL with you? And he always would mention Alohi Gilman, who the Chargers ended up drafting, and says that he was very excited when the Chargers got him, which is understandable. They played together in college, so that excitement is natural. You'll always hear guys kind of pump up the fan base and even in front of the media when they get to reunite with a college teammate. And last night, he tweeted, Chiefs Kingdom, you're going to love this guy. Let's go low. So, listen, the Chiefs got a couple of underrated defensive players yesterday, getting Kyrie's Tonga. And by the way, I was listening to a clip from a sports talk radio station in Boston, and I apologize. I don't remember if it was WEEI or W The Fan, but one of their hosts was saying that they view Tonga going to the Chiefs as a loss. I mean, he played a big part in that defensive success, helping them get to a Super Bowl. Everyone last year was talking about Drake May and Mike Vrabel, how Vrabel won Coach of the Year. Drake May was the runner-up for MVP. And understandably so. But that defense for New England did not get talked about much. A lot of people thought that Seattle's offense last year in the Super Bowl, specifically Jackson Smith and Jigba, were going to go off in that game. And I told a lot of people, listen, they'll have a good game, which that did not end up happening. But I also said, let's not disrespect New England's defense completely. And you saw New England's defense step up. And who do they turn to try to get some offensive production? The new running back for the Kansas City Chiefs, Kenneth Walker III. So that's good. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what they're going to do with Tonga coming in here, as well as Gilman, because I think those are two under the radar pieces for Kansas City's defense that can help out. And look, you need a lot of help on defense. A lot of help. So you're going to address the edge rusher position. You might even get another defensive lineman in the draft. Certainly, there will be a lot of players in the secondary. And I apologize because somebody was asking about the who do we have left on defense. I know we got away from that. So you have Karlaftis, you have Gelati, and FAU. Those are your main edge rushers. You also have Tyreek Smith, Ethan Downs, guys that might not end up being part of your main 53. As far as your interior defensive line, Chris Jones, Kyrie's Tonga, Omar Norman Lott. That's it. And Zach Pickens. I think Omar Norman Lott can be good for you if he stays healthy. And having Tonga as well, that'll certainly help. Your linebackers, you have Nick Bolton, you have Drew Tranquill, you have Jeffrey Bossa. Then you have Cooper McDonald and Brandon George. Cole Christensen is a restricted free agent, and Jack Cochran is an unrestricted free agent. And obviously, Chenal has moved on to the Commanders. In the secondary, this is where the conversation gets interesting. You have Christian Fulton and Noel Williams as your quarterbacks. For now, the projected quarterback is Christian Roland Wallace, maybe Shamari Connor. You have Alohi Gilman as one of your safeties. By the way, Kevin Knowles also on the team as well. Did a couple of good things on special teams last year for the Chiefs. Alohi Gilman now part of your secondary, as well as Jaden Hicks. Deion Bush at the moment does not have a contract, had that devastating injury in the preseason. And also Mike Edwards, who came back to the Chiefs but did not play a whole lot for the Chiefs in 2025. So, yeah, that's not a great defense on paper. And I told you guys at the beginning of the offseason, I do have my concerns because we anticipated the Trent McDuffie trade and the narrative on Brett Veach not paying defensive backs. It's very well out there. And what do you know? The defensive backs have all moved on. The only one that has not moved on yet officially is Nazeeh Johnson, who the Chiefs did bring back on a tender last year. And we'll see if they bring him back. It's not going to be anything expensive because Nazeeh hasn't necessarily flourished to have earned anything like that. He is pretty good in the blitz package situations. And I know Spags has always been very high on Nazeeh Johnson, maybe more than the general public feel about Johnson. but you definitely need a safety or two. You'll need a cornerback or two. I think it is safe to say of the 9 draft picks, and again, this is assuming there are no trades. That's a big assumption because we know Veach is very active during the draft. But let's assume this 1 year Veach is not going to make a trade. Let's just assume it is going to be the 9 picks that we have right now. I would imagine at least 5 of those will be in the secondary. Because if you remember 4 years ago in 2022, when the Chiefs had 10 draft picks, half of those draft picks were used on defensive backs. 4 cornerbacks, 1 safety. McDuffie, Johnson, Watson, and Williams. Those were your cornerbacks, and Brian Cook was your safety you drafted that year. And I think this draft is going to look a lot like the 2022 draft. Listen, the 2022 and the 2026 draft for Kansas City in terms of draft capital for right now, very similar. 9 draft picks to 10 draft picks, 2 draft picks in the first round, both of those years. And again, I don't think it is absurd to say, I think it's very obvious that this is going to be a defensive heavy draft for the Chiefs, which is exactly what the 2022 draft was. Again, they had 10 draft picks that year. 7 of those 10 draft picks were on the defensive side. Leo Chenal and George Karlaftis were your non-defensive back selections on the defensive side of the football. The only offensive draft picks were Isaiah Pacheco, Darian Kennard, and Sky Moore. I always forget Sky Moore was part of that draft class, but I think that's going to be what the Chiefs see. Brad says 6-3 defense. I would think that as well. Chuck is saying the same thing. I think at least 6 of your draft picks will be on the defensive side of the football. 4 or 5 of them will be in the secondary. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the Chiefs attack that in this year's draft. I don't think they're going to be acquiring any more draft picks by trading away a player. Now, can they acquire more draft picks by trading out of the number 9 pick? Yes, that is certainly possible. They also own the number 29 pick. And the reason why that might be a little enticing, if there's somebody that's looks like they're about to fall out of the first round, there might be a team that trades up and will want to switch spots with Kansas City because they want to have that 5th-year option in their disposal for a specific player. So Kansas City has some options in terms of how they want to approach this. Robert says, I keep seeing Chiefs fans call for the return of L'Jarius Sneed if he's released. Isn't he beat up physically? Dude, that trade between the Chiefs and Titans, the Chiefs won that trade by a mile. I know the Chiefs, I mean, they didn't have that three-peat, and this past year was not a good one, but I mean, you don't ever trade for a cornerback, give him a lot of money just for him to miss a bunch of games. So that trade's boded well for Kansas City. And look, I'm a huge fan of Sneed, his backstory and everything he did with the Chiefs, but he just has not been available. I don't know if I would really entertain the idea of a reunion with Sneed. Plus, he's got some off-the-field incident that isn't looking too good for him right now. I don't know all the details to that. Listen, you already have an off-the-field incident with Rashee Rice. I think part of the reason why Mike Pennell might not be brought back, one is his age, and 2, this might be the bigger factor, is he's got an off-the-field domestic violence allegation. Again, these are just allegations. We don't know for a fact what happened. We don't know any of that yet. But the Chiefs already have, one player on the team that's constantly dealing with off-the-field drama. We don't need any more of that. Yeah, I agree, Shelly. I don't know if I would want Sneed back, given his unavailability. Like, forget about the incident. I was already, because I know fans always have the idea of wanting to reunite with a fan favorite. And my whole thing on Sneed was he hasn't been available for them. And to my understanding, and I have this on good authority, Tennessee has actually grown very frustrated with Snead as early as the most recent training camp. Because if I recall correctly, Snead did not participate in training camp up until like the last week of it or the last couple of days. And that's never ideal, especially when you traded a third round pick for someone and you gave them a bunch of money. That is never ideal. But that, unfortunately, is the situation that Snead has kind of found himself in. Okay, before I get out of here, and look, let me just, I think you guys know, over the last, 8 years, this platform has really grown a lot, and I owe it all to you guys. And I think over the years, you learn that, okay, you can't read every single comment. Listen, there have been a lot of comments in the chat, and I have not been able to read every single one of them. I've got a couple of complaints over the months from people saying, hey, how come you never interact with me, or how come you never read my comment? Boy, if I read every single comment and responded to every single person, I would never get anything accomplished. But anyway, I've also learned over the years, ignoring negative comments actually is a lot better, because people tend to keep following and saying negative things over and over again, hoping to elicit a response out of you. And when you don't, it actually irritates them. I've actually had one person admit to that to me. So, trolls get irritated when you don't give them the attention they're seeking. I mean, someone's got to give them attention, but more times than not, it won't be from me. Now, I received an email today. And let me just say this, because I read your comments. I am keeping this person's information private. I don't need them receiving harassment, especially when this is all harmless. But I got a really hilarious email today. Now, I lost brain cells reading it, but it was too funny to not share on my social media. And I'm going to share it with you guys right now on the podcast if you haven't already. I've seen some of you guys actually allude to this in the chat here. So this is a comment that I received, and let me just make sure. Can you guys see that on your guys' end? Oh yeah, that is big, bold, and beautiful. You guys can see that. Okay, there it is. So, apparently, because the new league year does not start until tomorrow, which we've already discussed earlier on the podcast. Apparently, I am spreading capital letters way too much information. I'm going to try to get through this without laughing anymore. Let's see if I can do that. This person is complaining that I keep saying that the Chiefs signed Kenneth Walker III. They actually wrote out the third instead of using the capital I 3 times. That's not diabolical at all. That Kelce resigned. Apparently, I said Kelce resigned. Not re-signed, resigned. Where was I? Oh, yeah, Pacheco went to the Lions. That's apparently a lie from me. I appreciate that this person is crediting me for providing the insider information. I also need to stop lying. Holly said they can't spell. I was actually just going to spell out how they spell lying. Lying. They're going to report every single post. I don't know what that means. Are they going to report me to Meta? Okay. Have fun with that. I'm fake news. They got one thing right. They told me that I am not a journalist. That is accurate. That is 1,000% accurate. I am not a journalist. I was at one point a long time ago, but I am not a journalist. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. I will make sure Chiefs Kingdom unfollows you because you are not, capital letters, not a reliable source. Okay, I'm gonna do something. This is not the first time someone has tried to get people to unfollow me. People have attempted this before. It's actually pretty adorable to watch. If I lose 1,000 followers in the next 24 hours, I will shut down all of my social media. If we lose 1,000 Facebook followers, I will shut down all social media forever and ever. You guys will never hear from me again. Anyway, let's read the last. Okay, This part I cannot read without laughing. You think you're all that, but you are not. What does that mean? By the way, they use the incorrect "your" multiple times on here. I will never listen to your podcast again. Podcast, they put it as 2 words. It's 1 word. Your fake news. Capital letters. Is that 3 or 4 exclamation points? 3 exclamation points. So I apologize for lying. L-I-E-I-N-G, lying to you guys. Kenneth Walker's not a Chief. McDuffie never got traded. Pacheco is indeed not a Lion, according to Karen here, who emailed me. Those were all fake misinformation, if you will. Listen, I cannot get over the fact that they wrote out the 3rd on Kenneth Walker's name. Listen, this is actually not the first time I've received a similar complaint, because I forgot to read this part of the email. None of this is on the Chiefs website. That's what they mentioned. I've actually had this before, where many years ago there was a Chiefs player who was on the PUP, and somebody reached out and they're like, I don't see this on the Chiefs website. It's like, first of all, it is on the Chiefs website. Second of all, the Chiefs website, and I'm not disrespecting Matt McMullen and the production staff. I actually know, I know of a couple of the production staff guys. I've had private conversations with them. They do a great job with their stuff. I don't watch the franchise often. I've only seen a couple of episodes, but from what I've seen, they do a really good job with it. So I don't want to be disrespectful to them. But the one thing you've got to keep in mind with the Chiefs website, with Matt McMullen, who does a lot of the reporting for the Chiefs, because Matt McMullen is a Chiefs employee, he is not allowed to discuss any of these unofficial signings. So if your source for news is one person and one person only, and that one person is Matt McMullen, that's not a bad source for news. It's absolutely not. I've read some of his stuff. I follow his tweets. He does a great job with his stuff, but you got to keep in mind, like, he's not allowed to say anything until things are officially official. So anyway, I have to share this. This was too damn funny not to share. This should be a TikTok challenge to where, people are forced to read that email without laughing. I mean, come on, like, who writes out the 3rd? How do you misspell lying? I really want to assume that this is an adult who wrote this, but there's no way this could have been an adult. This had to have been. This email was sent at 2:45 this afternoon, and I got it about an hour before the podcast. I don't know. Maybe they were bored in school, and they're like, "I'm just going to write Farzine an email." I mean, listen, we can say whatever we want about them, because Daniel said Robert Griffin III, writing out the 3rd. Jacob says ChatGPT could have done better. Other creators use your information. Yeah, and I appreciate that. It's funny. Oh, is he Letitia? It's funny you say a Bills fan, because Mickey was just mentioning other creators use my content, which I'm totally fine with, as long as they don't claim it as their own. And if they can, reword things into their own. There's actually a Buffalo Bills creator who has been like stealing all of my content and claiming it as theirs. And a lot of you guys called that out, which I appreciate, but I also don't want to give them attention. I blocked them. And I mean, if you block someone, there's no way that they can really access a lot of your content anyway. But I mean, hey, leave it to a Bills fan to want to really copy my work. Word for word, take my logos and claim it as their own. I mean, come on. And listen, I used to be upset about that stuff several years ago. Not anymore. Now I just find it like very flattering. I will say, if you copy something I say word for word, and if my followers, call it out and tag me on it, I'll definitely poke fun at it. But it doesn't it doesn't make me upset anymore. Is Mike Evans being traded? I mean, if you listen to Karen here in this email, the answer would be no, because nothing's official until tomorrow. However, if you listen to the unofficial reports, yes, Mike Evans is indeed traded to he's not traded, excuse me. He signed with it's the refs. He is with the 49ers now. So that is probably, I would say that was the most shocking offseason story up until this Maxx Crosby situation. So there's that. All right. I'm going to get out of here. I appreciate you all joining me for this episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast. If you guys enjoyed any part of this podcast, please give it a like, share it, let your friends know about the Chiefs Zone podcast. We've had a lot of engagement in the last 48 hours, a lot of viewers, and I greatly appreciate you guys doing that. If you haven't done so already, and I'm commenting with the link right now in the chat, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're also doing different video content on there that you're not going to see on other platforms that I have, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of those places. So the YouTube is going to have some unique stuff that you won't see anywhere else. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this, please share it with your friends. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Let a friend know about the YouTube channel. If you miss any part of this podcast, it will be archived very shortly on Facebook, YouTube, X, Apple, Spotify, anywhere where you can download, listen to a podcast. I appreciate you all joining me on this Tuesday night. We'll be back tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central Time, and we will spend more time talking about the Chiefs and other NFL news headlines out there, as a lot of these moves will finally be official. We'll react to all of that and more. I'll talk to you all then. Peace out.